Passion Harvest. Hello, passionate listeners. Welcome to Passion Harvest, where we aim to inspire you to live a passionate life. Thank you for being here today and making you a part of whatever we're doing right now. Oops, I think I messed that up because it's 5:30 in the morning. I'll do that one more time. I can do it afterwards. Hello, passionate listeners. Welcome to Passion Harvest, where we aim to inspire you to live a passionate life. My name is Louisa. I'm the host of your show, International Passion Ambassador, and thank you for being with us now. If you like this episode, please subscribe. I have a very exciting guest today, and it's taken us so long to get together, and I can't wait to dive right in. Her name is Yamile. Yemoonyah. Oh my gosh, I hope I said that correctly, but I'm sure Yamile will correct me. Welcome to the wonderful world of spirit guides with Yamile. Is that right?
Yes.
Yay!
Thank you for inviting me.
Yamile is passionate about the unseen dimensions of the universe and the myriad forms of conscious beings that inhabit it and their relationship to each other. Receiving more and more messages from spirit guides for other people made Yamile realize that she had an incredible gift to connect others with their own spirit guides and relay messages to assist them on their soul's journey and their next stage of spiritual path. This is her story and this is her passion. Yamile, welcome to Passion Harvest.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited to dive right into this. I guess, people are so fascinated about spirit guides and what they do for us and what they look like and how we can connect with them. But I guess I'd like to start with your own journey and how you discovered spirit guides and how you trusted yourself enough to realize that that's what they were.
Well, it was a longer journey. It didn't happen overnight.
Oh, okay. Everyone think we live in such an instantaneous world, and we want things to happen on, immediately. But that is the case.
So it really started around 20 years ago. So I would actually, of course, I was born, and that's kind of important because I was born in Colombia to my birth mother, of whom I only know that she's partially indigenous, what Americans would call Native American, Canadians would call First Nations, etc. And I don't know anything about my dad because when I was 1 year old, I was adopted by my parents who are from Holland, and then I grew up in Germany. So wow. I didn't know where, so I had no clue where I was from. I didn't know anything about my roots, really. And that's how my story starts, because about 20 years ago, I felt like kind of lost in life. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I didn't know, I was in college, but didn't feel happy there. And I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I felt that this was because I didn't have roots. I figured I need to find my roots to really grow my wings, basically. And so I started doing some research into indigenous cultures in South America, specifically Colombia, to kind of connect with my ancestors in some way. And that's when I started looking into shamanism, specifically neo-shamanism, core shamanism, and discovered that whole world, read a lot of books. And then one night I woke up in the middle of the night. It was maybe 3, 4. And I opened my eyes and I see the door of my bedroom. And there's this guy standing, and he's just in physical form, a man, and he's just wearing jeans, no shirt, no socks, no shoes, short dark hair, darker skin, looked like he was from South America, looked like he was indigenous, and he was just standing there, and I'm staring at him because it's a little bit weird to
Were
stare
you
at some stranger.
Though?
No, not really. Okay. Like I was a little bit like, what's going on? But I wasn't scared in that sense. It was really weird. And so I'm staring at him, and I noticed that I can't move. Now I know that's what's called sleep paralysis. Back then,
astral projection.
Exactly. And back then I had no idea what that was or what it meant. I just knew I couldn't move. And then from out of nowhere, he brings out this like red glowing orb, maybe in the size of a baseball, and he has it in his hand, and he throws it over, and I can feel it land on the bed next to me. And the next thing I know is that the next morning I wake up, my eyes weren't even open yet, and my hand already immediately started searching for that red glowing orb. And then my brain started working. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. What was that? What happened?
Wow.
And I call my friend, I tell her the whole story, and we are both wondering, like, what happened? And I had no idea. I just knew this wasn't like normal. This wasn't a normal person that was in my room, but otherwise I had no idea. And then 2 days later, we were signed up to go to a workshop with that same friend, a workshop on core shamanism as taught by Michael Harner and his Foundation for Shamanic Studies. So we are on the train, on the way to Berlin to the workshop. We talk about this again. We arrive in Berlin. We go to the workshop space. The workshop starts, and they tell us, okay, what we're going to do first is we go and meet your spirit guides in the spirit world. I think they call them spiritual helpers in the spirit world. This is how you do it, and it's kind of like a guided meditation. And usually when you meet your guides for the first time, they will give you some energy. So oftentimes they will hug you and you will feel the energy really go into you. Or sometimes your spiritual helpers will give you energy in the form of a red glowing orb.
Wow.
And so in that moment, I was like, oh, that was my spirit guide. Now I understand. So that was the moment that I was convinced that there was more to reality than we are taught in school or that Western science will us have believe. And that's where my journey started with spirit guides. And and since then I've been fascinated by it, and I've seen other kinds of beings. Like I've had 3 aliens visit me in my bedroom once, same story, in the middle of the night. I've seen like little trolls jump out of the earth in the middle of like a big city and all kinds of weird things.
Gosh.
So yeah, but that's where my story started.
Everyone's probably saying, I want that experience. I want that experience. Where to start? That's kind of incredible. So obviously you do spirit guide readings for people as well, and your intuition, and you've adapted so professionally, but do you see spirit guides around people all the time? Can you switch off, like when you're in the supermarket or you're walking down the street, or do they give you messages? I'm asking so many questions because I'm so excited, but
no, that's fine. No, usually it's more the other way around. I tune into it and then I see it. Sometimes it will happen that I just walk down the aisle at the supermarket and I see someone in the corner of my eye and I know, oh, there's a nature spirit around that person. But I usually just keep walking because you just don't go up to someone and tell someone something like this because you don't know if they want to know or if they even believe in that. It's just ethically not okay. But yeah, so usually when I do my readings, I really sit down before and I tune in and bring myself into like a meditative, almost trance state, and then I do the readings. Yeah.
So how many, maybe it's different, I don't know. How many guides does each person have?
So far as I understand it, we all have a team of guides that can be between 3 and 5, something like this. And then we have like a core team of guides that are always with us throughout our entire lives. And then we have ones that come in and leave again. I call them experts. For example, you're going through a nasty divorce and then you have an angel come in who helps you just with that divorce, and then they leave again.
Interesting. And you mentioned lives, not life. So they're with us all our lives, plural?
I'm not sure. I don't want to say for all our lives. I don't know. But some are definitely with us for several lifetimes. That's what I can say. Yes.
And I mean, I believe that, if we need help, we ask for it. I was told, that our guides are always around us, but we have our own free will. So when we ask for assistance and help, they'll help us and provide for us and give us assistance. And I've had a lot of people say, well, I just don't hear anything and I can't see anything and I'm trying so hard. And how do you see them? How do you connect with them? Or what advice would you give to someone who really wants to connect or needs help?
Well, the thing is that most people don't see or hear or feel them, first of all, because, well, that's the main reason, because we have certain expectations of how this connection should work. For example, a lot of people think we have to either see them physically or we have to actually hear words outside of ourselves for it to be real. That's usually not how it works. I needed that, like that he actually physically appeared, because I needed to really be awoken and have no way to explain that away. So, but usually it's much more subtle. So they will communicate with us through our intuition, through our feelings, just by giving us new insights, by making us pay attention when someone is having a conversation about something that can help us on our path. So it's like little and subtle interferences. Well, interference is a negative word, but so they're helping us and guide us in more subtle ways than we would expect. Also, then people think that you have to always be clairvoyant, in the sense that you have to see them, but a lot of people are more clairsentient, so they will experience their spirit guides through through feelings, for example. And so really knowing like the technicalities of how it works helps us to really bring it into our consciousness. Usually we have conversations with our guides all the time, but it happens on a like subconscious level, because in our society we're taught that only what's real is important, and so our brains are trained to only pay attention to these things. All the rest, which is 98% or something, gets just filtered out. And so our brain doesn't pay attention to the guidance from our spirit guides. But if we bring that back up into our consciousness, then we can learn to have conscious conversations with them. And so it's basically important to understand how it works. Learn, for example, about the clair. So you have clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance, clairsent, and clairgustance, which is like clear seeing, clear hearing, clear feeling, clear knowing, clear smelling, and clear tasting.
You passed the test.
Yeah. And so if just like in everyday life, not everyone is a visual person.
Yes.
We have to find out what's our main clair, what's the main psychic sense that we use to pick up on the advice or guidance of our spirit guides. And that is like one of the first steps. Maybe you're not a visual person, then you're probably not going to see your guide. Maybe you're more like, if you, for example, are totally into music, then you're probably more an auditory person, and maybe you hear your guides more. And then we also have to pay attention to there's like clairaudience that's like objective, like literally hearing a voice from outside. That sometimes happens to people, like especially early in the morning or late at night when you're half asleep and suddenly you hear someone say your name. That would be objective clairaudience. But most of the time it's subjective, which means that you like hear a voice inside of your own head, and it might even sound like your own voice, and you think, oh, it's just my thoughts. But oftentimes it's not your thought, it's actually your spirit guides inspiring you by giving you thoughts, and it's their voice. And so it's like paying attention to these subtle things.
I love that. And I found for me personally that you have to, it doesn't always happen when you're busy and crazy and doing things. You have to be in a good space, quiet and calm. And for me, it's happened in multiple ways. So hearing, sometimes seeing, and during a meditation, it can differ as well. But
Yes.
I have to be quiet.
Yes. Yes. Especially in the beginning, you have to be able to quiet your mind. That's why meditation is so great. Because again, like we get a lot of like information all the time, and our brain is used to filter out the most important stuff, and everything else gets put to the side. And if we like learn to quiet our minds, then we can pick up on the more subtle information that comes in, which is also from our guides.
That's really interesting. And you also talk about the 7 kinds of spirit guides. You've got the power animal, angel, goddess, a nature spirit, star being, an ancestor, or an ascended master.
Mm-hmm.
Are they the 7 types of guides? I know it's not nice to compartmentalize them, but generally that's the 7 kinds of spirit guides.
Yeah, so that's what I learned from my guides. Of course, like I put them into these categories. There's obviously like also guides that are in between, but just to make it easier, they told me there's these 7 types. And to find one way to find out what kind of spirit guide you have and how to connect with them is to go through that categorization. So if I know, for example, that my guide is a nature spirit, then that makes it easier for me to connect with my personal guide, because then it's obvious that if I go out in nature, it's easier to connect with them. Or if my guide is, let's say, an ancestor spirit, then I can look at the spiritual traditions that already have been working with ancestors for thousands of years and maybe be inspired by them. How do they do it? For example, a lot of them use dance and rhythm to connect with ancestors. So then I can use that same, can also use music and dance to connect with my personal guide.
That's really interesting. Or a power animal, potentially be around animals more, or birds.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a
And then
great.
also what I found out is like, depending on what type of guide you have, that says a lot about you as a person as well. Because usually our guides work with us because we have similar energy patterns. So someone who has an animal guide usually loves animals, or someone who works with a nature spirit usually likes to be in nature and really gets like energized by being in nature. These kinds of things, and these are the obvious ones, but there's a lot of like other things that you can just know by what type of guide they have.
Interesting. And talking about the frequency, you mentioned that they have a similar energetic frequency, but it's obviously vibrates at a higher level, and that goes back to, quieting your mind and yourself, because it raises your vibration to match that frequency
Yes.
of your guide.
Yeah. Yeah. And also going back to, a lot of people want to see their guide and have them physically in the room. For the guides, it's like it takes a lot of energy to come like down into the physical. So it's easier to, like you said, raise your own vibration and meet them in the middle than to expect them to come all the way to you. It just makes more sense, and it's easier for both parties.
Yes. Even though everyone would love to see them and take a photo and put it on Instagram.
But to be honest, like most people, I think from what I understand, when I ask people, when you really ask them, do you really want like your guy to appear in your bedroom in the middle of the night? They're like, I don't think so. I'd be scared.
Yes, it's quite
Yeah.
confronting. I can imagine. Definitely, yes. It's like, whether you're seeing a ghost. I mean, we always have those childhood stories of seeing ghosts and being terrified. Yes, it could be quite
Exactly.
confronting. So they
Yeah.
would want to come in the most gentle way, not to shock you, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when you do your reading, you mention guides can talk about an individual's gifts, skills, and abilities.
Yes. So
They tell
oftentimes,
you, sorry, so they would
yeah.
tell you, and
No,
then
go
you
ahead.
would relay it to the client.
Yes. Because our spirit guides, like, as far as I see it and understand it, their main job is to help us be our own authentic self and bring our gifts to the world, and live an authentic, fulfilled life and live our purpose. So, and that usually starts with really understanding who you are. What are my specific gifts? What are my specific challenges? What are my specific characteristics that I bring? And then I can, from that, see what my purpose is, etc. So oftentimes people that come to me will, one of their main questions is, what is my purpose? Why am I here? How can I step more into that purpose? So that's why the guides oftentimes will start with that. They will tell me something about the person that's sitting in front of me.
And how do you receive it? So just intuitive guidance. How do you receive the messages, just out of interest?
I usually get them via claircognizance, which means that it's like downloads. So
Right.
I just know things. I don't, well, I do also get images, but most of it is just like downloads. I just suddenly know it and then I just say it. And
Yeah.
that was a whole journey to like trust that.
Oh my gosh, you're answering all my questions, because I was just saying, I find it with so many of my guests that, that are living a passionate life or living their purpose or whatever you want to call it, or light workers like yourself across the world. It takes a while to trust what you're getting. You think, oh no,
Yes.
this is crazy. My mind's just making it up. So whether it's channeling or anything, it's a really big thing to trust yourself. And I always say that to the audience.
Yeah. And that's why it's important to practice, 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 just like with everything else. So for me, when I realized, and that took forever, from the point that I started seeing these beings to the point that I realized, oh, wait a minute, I can do something with this. It's not just randomly seeing weird stuff happening in my life. It took a long time. So the first time I realized, oh, okay, I can do something with this was in 2015. And then I, by chance, found a TV show called Monica the Medium. And that was about a younger medium who does readings for people in her life. But what the main thing that I took away from that was that the way it worked for her. Well, she
Mm-hmm.
was seeing dead people. So the way it worked for her when she was in a restaurant, let's say, and she felt like somehow drawn to a specific person, and then she would like start like almost being trembly and feel energy around her and all that. And she described that, and I was like, wait a minute, that sounds very similar to what happens to me, only I don't see the dead people, I see all kinds of other beings. And so that put me onto mediumship and spiritualism, which is the tradition where mediumship as it is practiced today comes from. And I went online and I looked it all up, and I saw there's a ton of books about spiritualism. There's a ton of
There's
like
a lot.
courses out there, and spiritualism is a religion. And they also train their mediums. So every spiritualist church has like training where you can go almost weekly for classes. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so I started going and signing up for these kinds of trainings, and you do practice readings. And so I was there, and I just kind of like just started saying whatever came to my mind. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, there's something to that. I'm not making this up.
Really
So
trusting yourself.
yeah, so it's
And,
really about like practicing, practice, practice, practice. Yeah.
but I love it, because even, watching this show, I haven't seen it, the show you talked, Monica, all
Monica
this
the
is your
medium. Yeah.
guides guiding you to all of this, and you're listening to
Yes,
that. Whether
yes,
unconsciously, perhaps at the time, you were guided to, all these steps on the path to where you are now.
yes, absolutely. And even back then, I already knew, because for me, when I'm guided, even though it doesn't happen like Yamile, go do this, it's more like I get like an insight, and I can feel if it's more of a feeling if it's me or if it's my guides. And that was a good example. Like I was sitting there and I wanted to watch something, and I felt like I wanted to watch something more spiritual. So I started Googling, and then I found this, and I got this feeling, yeah, yes, watch that. And so that's how it happened.
And that's what that's what I also talk about passion as well. What you can call it many words, but it's something that feels good and exciting to you. And I always say, follow that, because it's almost like your guides or your soul connecting with you, showing you what you should follow,
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
which is kind of similar. Oh, I also wanted to ask the question. So you're able to talk to guides. Are you also able to communicate with someone's soul, which is kind of a similar modality?
Yes. Yes, it's a very similar modality. It's just like one is that you tune into the person itself, to their soul, and the other one is more you tune into what's around them, like the beings around them. But the way you do it is the same thing.
I've done it before. I've got no idea how I do it. How do you tell the difference between, um, just say someone has 5 spirit guides, how can you tell the difference between the guides?
Good question. Well, in that sense, either I just know it because
Mm-hmm.
they just give me the information,
Yeah.
but I will also often get, when it comes to that, images. So, for example, angels will often show themselves, and they show themselves like as light beings oftentimes. So I don't see the features, but they're like a being made out of light with
Mm-hmm.
wings. And with angels, the funny thing also is that they have this symbolic way of telling me when they want to talk about someone's um, job life or business. They will come in a white suit and they will wear this like suit made out of light. And then I know, okay, they want to talk about like either that person just started a new business, wants to start a business, or is like thinking about it. So, and it always works, which is funny. But yeah, so I distinguish the different types. They will often show me an image,
A
and then
visual
I know.
image.
Yeah.
And I'm interested. I'm interested in what the nature spirits look like, or how everyone. It's for different for everyone, but to you, how are they represented?
Nature spirits will often, for example, elves will oftentimes either look like Disney elves or like Lord of the Rings elves.
Okay.
So very different types, and that again has the way they show themselves always has information in it too. So if, for example, spirit guide appears with a sword, I often know, okay, they're also a guardian for that person. But these
Okay.
or like I said, the angel that comes in a business suit, I know, okay, she or he wants to talk about like work life.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's not the same for everyone. This is like the symbols that I and the spirit guides have set up with each other. Everyone else has like their own symbols that they need to develop with their guides. So that's not the same. And that's something that I tell everyone all the time, because I get this question all the time, like, what does this mean if I dream this? Or
Yes.
what does it mean if I see this? And I say, that's really up. It's very personal. What does a
Mm.
rose mean to you? It doesn't have to mean romantic love. Maybe to you, it reminds you of your grandmother because she loved roses. Then if you see a rose, it might be a sign that your grandmother is around. If someone else sees a rose, it might be a sign that love is on the way. It depends on you and your personal interpretation of and what it means to you.
That's so right. And we all want the answers. But again, I think you mentioned it before, it's practice. You know, if you're dedicated about this and you really want to do it, it does take practice. It doesn't
Yes.
happen, you know, like whether you want to be a long distance swimmer, I'm just putting it out there, that just
Yeah.
came randomly to my head. You know, you got
Yeah.
to practice. And then you
Yes,
will get, you know,
totally.
you and you might have been doing this for lifetimes, but you will get better.
Yeah, and to that same point also, because a lot of people think you either are born with this, like seeing past loved ones or spirit guides or whatever, or you can't do it. But that's also not true. Yes, there are people that are born with a gift, which only means that they probably put in the work in past lives, and now it looks like it just falls into their lap, but that's not what it's like.
Mm.
But if someone has a gift and never practices, then they won't get any far. Just like you said, someone who's great at swimming, if they never swim, they're never going to win a gold medal at the Olympics. But if someone who might not be born with a gift but practices every day can go way further than someone with a gift who never practices. So anyone can do it. Anyone.
And are you teaching this at the moment?
Yeah.
Oh,
So I
okay.
have, yeah, I
I'd
have
love to talk about that.
at the moment I have a weekly show, a live show that I do on Sundays. And in the show I teach for 20 minutes, and then I do a Q&A, and then I do mini readings. And I have the book obviously that will come out. So there's a lot in there too.
A
And
big
then
congratulations. What's the book called?
it's called The 7 Types of Spirit Guides.
Oh,
Yeah, and so it's about these like different types and their characteristics and gifts, and also challenges that come with each type, and then how you can use the knowledge of knowing what type you have to really connect with your own personal guide. And then the last part of the book is how to create a DIY ceremony to connect and communicate with your guide.
Beautiful. I know what a lot of work a book takes, so big congratulations for that. And I love,
Thanks.
you know, as you're saying this, it's really giving these great tools to people, because we all do have this. It's again going back to, if you want to do it, or, you know, see a professional, wonderful person like you, but we all have these. We're all born with the capability to access our spirit guides.
Totally. Just like everyone can dance. You might not become a professional ballroom dancer, but everyone can dance. We can all connect with our guides. Absolutely.
That's fantastic. I'd love to just briefly touch on, because it may be of interest to people. You mentioned you woke up with some aliens in your room. What was that like?
Well, there was a similar story. Like I just woke up in the middle of the night, and I get up to leave the room. I assume I wanted to go to the bathroom, but then I see these 3 aliens standing there, and I think 2 were standing up. One was kneeling on one knee as if he was about to propose to someone. It was really funny. And they stare at me, I stare at them. They were just as surprised that I could see them as I was that they were there. And then one of them comes running over and touches me like here on my wrist. And again, the next thing I know, I wake up the next day, and again, my brain wasn't even functioning yet, but I knew that it wasn't actually that I had gotten up to go to the bathroom. It was my astral body that had gotten out of my physical body and was ready to go travel. And that was the part of me that saw them. And the one that came running over touched my physical body, because he knew that if you touch the physical body, the astral body will automatically go back in. And he wanted to like not see me the other way around. He didn't want me to see them. So it touched my physical body, my astral body went back in and went back to sleep.
You must be a very cool, amazing woman, because most people would have a heart attack if that happened.
I know, it's really weird. I don't understand why, but like every time this kind of stuff happens, I'm not scared at all. And I might freak out after, but in the moment,
at the moment,
no. Yeah.
So obviously I don't want to diverge too much, but so astral projection, I've talked about it on the show before. Does this happen often to you?
No, I've never like consciously done it. I would love to learn it. Absolutely.
But because I had an incredible guest on the show who does teach it.
Oh, who's that?
Greg Doyle.
Okay.
I'll send you his links. He does incredible work.
Yeah, I would love to learn it, because I think that would be great. If I could do that, then I could even have like conversations with spirit guides on a whole different level.
Yes, he talks about incredible journeys. He can astral project, like literally go to sleep and astral project.
Amazing.
Well, what you're doing is absolutely amazing as well.
For me, it's normal. So I'm like, astral projection. Wow.
So I guess, you know, when people see you, probably the 3 main things they want to know about, I guess, is finances, love, or maybe health, career. Are they the main topics?
Actually, because I have set up my service very specifically, most people that come to me want to know about what is my purpose, my passion in life.
I love that. That relates directly to the show.
Yeah, it's totally, because that's also because it took me such a long time to find out what my passion and purpose is. So that's kind of like my thing that I can help other people with a lot. And so then when it comes to like question and answers, which is usually at the end of my readings, then they will also come with questions like, will I meet someone? These kinds of things. But it's usually not the main thing. And also during the readings, I don't let them ask questions right from the start. I let the spirit guides speak whatever they have to say. And oftentimes the questions that people come with are already answered before it's over. So, and then they're like, oh yeah, I had questions, but I have all the answers already.
I love that. So are you direct channeling the messages from their guides?
Yeah, so I don't speak in first person in the sense that I channel them in that sense, but I will just like get the message, and then I will say your spirit guide is saying that, and then give the message, whatever it is. But I basically trust that the guides will know why the person is coming to me. So I just start with saying, okay, this is the guide that's here. That's what they look like. Maybe they have a name. I will give the name, and then I just tell them whatever the guide has to say.
Oh, this is so exciting. And do you do it with your eyes open or eyes closed?
Closed most of the time.
I was going to say, because it's, yeah.
I still do training as a classical medium, like talking to past loved ones, and there they always tell us like, keep your eyes open, keep your eyes open. But I find it easier to close my eyes because I also don't get distracted by someone's facial expressions or whatever, or like a donkey in the background.
Oh yes, they're very interested.
Yeah. And so I can just like, it's easier for me to go into that like half trance like state. And so yeah, I just close my eyes most of the time.
How exciting! I just find it absolutely fascinating. I'm so excited to know more about my guides. In the essence of time, is there something a couple of other points you'd like to share with the audience?
Let's see, is there anything that
Or maybe you've
really
got something from your guides to talk about?
I think the main thing, and we've talked about this, but I can never say it enough, also because my guides always tell me to say this, that really everyone can talk to their guides. There is no one who does not have a guide, even if you think you might be the only one in the entire world. Everyone has a guide, and everyone can connect with their guides. There are no exceptions. And it's totally possible for you to learn how to do it. So that's the main thing that the guides always want me to say.
I love that. That's beautiful. And I always like to ask the guests on the show, and you've kind of touched on this, but as a final question, if someone's wanting to live a passionate life or follow their passions, or perhaps too fearful to follow their passions, and that was a few questions, what is your recommendation?
I would say learn who you really are. Really go into yourself. Who are you? What do you really want in life? Do not censor yourself when you answer that question. Do you not think about what is possible or what is real or what is doable? Really just think about, what do you want in life? Where do your dreams lead you? Where does your passion lead you? And follow that. That doesn't mean that you have to like give up your entire life. You don't have to give up your job and move to the Himalayas or anything like that. But just start by like following your passion in small steps. If you always wanted to be a painter, paint after work at home, for example. You don't have to, like I said, give up your life and divorce to become a painter. Just start painting or write your book or whatever it is. And then your guides can help you take the next step and take the next step and then see what grows out of that. And I think that's the main thing that I would say.
I felt that. That was so beautiful. Thank you so much, Yamile, for being on Passion Harvest. What a beautiful message
great.
from you or from your guides to share with the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.